Hi, everybody. My name is Melissa Blynn, and I am the founder of Awakening the Feminine podcast, where we are touching on unconventional, untraditional, unfamiliar ways of reconnecting and healing the feminine body from the inside out. I'm so excited to have my first guest, who's really someone that has changed my life and has made me more humble in regards to how sacred the feminine body is through her own journey. And I would love to introduce Brittany Boersma, who is the founder of BZen Wellness. Thank you so much, Brittany, for being on. And I just have goosebumps because I'm going to probably get choked about this. Man, I had the honor to meet you in Fit for Service, and we've grown very close over the years, and had the honor to co-facilitate your retreat called Nourishing the Feminine, literally like 3 or 4 months ago. And here we are, and we're talking all about you and all about your journey around awakening your inner feminine. And I want to start off by just thanking you so much for carving this time out today to be here with us and be an advocate for other women that are going to be listening today. So thank you.
It's my pleasure, sister.
Yay. So I really want to start off our call with asking, what was one of the most transformational moments in your health? Like, right? I think could be more. There's many pivotal, but I would want to really honestly ask you, what was that transformational moment in your health journey that really led you to this path of living a holistic, grounded life? Like, what was that pivotal moment for you?
Thank you for asking that question. And I think that many would assume that it would be learning about a cancerous tumor in my breast in 2021, but that wasn't it. I was losing my voice regularly back in 2004, 2005. I was a cheerleader and captain of the cheerleading team. So I was screaming my head off and leading this group of young women. And I was losing my voice regularly. And then I started working at Dutch Bros Coffee, and I was losing my voice every single shift. And we're like, what is going on? So I had gotten referred to an ear, nose, and throat doctor, and I had developed vocal cord nodules. And the doctor was asking all sorts of questions. One of, do you smoke? And, I was smoking cannabis back then. And he's like, do you drink? And yes, drinking alcohol. And this is when my younger years before. So I was 21 in college now at this point when I was regularly losing my voice at Dutch Bros, and taking too many shots of tequila, wearing my vocal cords out through, drinking alcohol. And he was asking about that. And then he was also asking about heartburn. And I didn't realize that I had actually been experiencing heartburn. I was like, no, I don't think I have heartburn. And then I go home, and the next day I'm like, oh, maybe I do have some like indigestion, some heartburn. And so I ended up going to vocal therapy, and they gave me a list of foods to avoid and ways that I could neutralize my gut and different habits. Because, apparently it's not good for us to take a bunch of shots of tequila. Or, be so hungover that you might be vomiting the next day. And so I had to really reevaluate my relationship with alcohol, my relationship with smoking, and also my relationship with food, because there were certain foods that would trigger my heartburn. And that was most definitely like sugar and heavy carbohydrates. And then also going on voice rest. So I actually had to quit my job.
Wow.
Take voice rest. And I self-healed. So I focused on all of those things, and I listened to what the doctor had suggested. I didn't take any medications, although they did recommend some like anti-heartburn medication, antacids. And I never even needed to do that because I started taking apple cider vinegar, focusing on gut health. and digestion. And then taking the break from Dutch Bros and not using my voice so regularly during that time, because it's a drive-through coffee business. So you're speaking loudly, you're drinking coffee, which is also not great for our gut.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I started implementing drinking hot water with lemon every morning to neutralize my stomach. And then also the apple cider vinegar was really, really helpful. So that was a really pivotal time in my health journey where I had to look at my lifestyle and say, okay, what are some small changes that I can make? Which were big changes. Needing to leave my job and get different work was really hard. But that was a really big time of me learning that my body is really capable of healing itself if I put it in the right environment too.
So this happened in 2004. Is that correct?
No, okay, so yeah, time is weird, but 2005, I graduated high school. And so it was really my senior year of high school that I was losing my voice a lot. Junior year of high school, I was. And then I started working at Dutch Bros the following year in college. And so it was just kind of this pattern. I had this really raspy voice and I would lose my voice. Like anytime we would go to a concert and I was speaking too much, my voice would get tired. And so that's why it sounds so sexy now.
Get it, girl. I love it. So awesome. Well, let me ask you this, because one of the things, in your bio is obviously you owned and operated 7 Dutch Bros coffees over a span of 8 years with your amazing husband, Jonah, who I know very deeply. And you guys together now own BZen Wellness. But also, too, you earned your bachelor's of science in psychology. So I'm curious, and I'm curious for the audiences that listening, did any of that in that time frame motivate you to go to school to get that degree? Was any of that linked for you?
Through my health journey,
Yeah.
or more, it was really more linked through my mental health journey for sure. I was actually going to school for pre-med, and freshman year of college, I just cried all the time with that workload of prerequisites. And then I was taking some psychology classes and getting straight A's in my psych classes and loving it. And then really struggling in more of the hard sciences and math. And I'm like, maybe I should just lean more into psychology because I'm getting better grades. And for a little bit there, I was pre-nursing, and let me see if I can, be a nurse instead of a doctor. And then, I was just thriving in psychology and learning so much about myself and doing a lot of my own personal work. And it wasn't until I got into college that I started considering my emotions. And it wasn't until college that I took my first yoga class.
Wow.
And so, college really helped my transformation a lot.
Wow.
And Dutch Bros was actually my fun college job.
Uh-huh.
So I was just working there for a nice social outlet. And then when I was losing my voice regularly, I had to leave. And that's when I got a job in the psychology department at the University of Oregon.
Wow.
So it actually kind of, led me down a path of working a little bit more in my field.
Yep.
And then after graduating, Jonah and I got married I graduated in 2009. We got married in 2011. And then we had the opportunity to become the franchise owners in 2011.
Okay.
So officially we took over the locations in January of 2012. So I went from working in the developmental sociobiology lab at the U of O to making a big decision on, okay, I'm going to run this business with my husband and we're going to do this together.
Wow.
It definitely took the energy of the both of us to run the ship. We had over 150 employees at a given time. So it was a really nice opportunity for me to bridge my experience in college. And the transition was really challenging for me going into college and leaving home. And most of our crew members were all college students.
Wow.
So they were starting to work at Dutch Bros as they were entering into college, and I knew exactly how they were feeling. And a lot of our crew members were dealing with feelings of anxiety, feelings of depression, and I could really connect with them deeply on that. Because my freshman year of college, it was the first time I had ever experienced like really deep depression. So
So let me ask you this. So when you obviously became the owners, I know that, your company now, BZen Wellness, you guys have really curated this amazing company that, helps leaders transform and learn radical self-care through coaching, retreats, embodiment practices, and energy medicine. Did you guys start to implement that in the Dutch Bros company? Did you implement that wellness?
absolutely. And that's really kind of how we developed BZen, was because we were running the locations, and that was when I did my yoga teacher training, was in 2015, and that was when we were in this business of Dutch Bros. And so it was just me doing my yoga teacher training for fun, and it ended up changing my life. Oh my goodness. We dove really deep during that teacher training. And as I'm enveloped in this work of yoga, I'm like, wow, we can do so much better in our business. We can really care so much more about our people. And so as soon as I got certified, I purchased a bunch of yoga mats and blocks and bolsters, all of the props for our warehouse. We had a really big warehouse with lots of space. So I would guide weekly yoga classes there. And it was so beautiful. It was an opportunity for people to come and connect with their bodies and also feel. My yoga mat has caught so many of my tears. That. It's a nice opportunity to feel into the body and to connect with our own hearts. And so we would have annual franchise summit meetings, and we were having one in, I believe it was Kauai, or no, we did one in San Diego. This was the first one that right after I got certified. And I reached out to the owner and I said, hey, can I lead some yoga in the morning? Because most of the time we would all get together and we would have dinner, we'd have some drinks, and then the next day we would have meetings. And I'm like, where's the wellness aspect for what we're doing? And it was amazing. I had like 40 or 50 people show up for morning yoga, and they loved it. So to be able to infuse that into a like corporate style of work, and really care about how people are feeling and what's going on inside, I was really able to connect very deeply with a lot of our crew members because of that.
It's beautiful to hear, like, your story of when I asked you what was a transitional or a moment in your journey, your health journey. It was literally when you lost your voice and when you started to lose your voice. And one of the things I want to just highlight, and let me know if this resonates with you or not, but one of the things that I have got to experience and have read and really learned about, part of the awakening the feminine is coming back to self and coming back to our internal, knowing with a capital K. And for a lot of us, you, me, and many other women in the world that are listening to this, they have like this pivotal moment in their own health journey. And it's a way of the body saying, hey, like, are you going to fucking slow down and listen to me? I need you, right? Like, I need you, like, please. And it's like, sometimes those subtle knocks end up becoming breaking down the door when we don't stop and we don't listen. And what I hear you saying is like, not only did this pivotal moment of losing your voice, it had an impact on what you did in college, what it had an impact on the employees that you served. And now, obviously, and we'll get to that in a few, like, it's just impacting people all over the world through BZen Wellness. And it's just your awakening, literally and figuratively, has changed the trajectory of not only your life, but thousands of people that you have impacted. And so it's so beautiful to watch you and learn from you. And, I want to ask you, one of the things, and I know this very intimately, you were diagnosed with breast cancer. And that I'll never forget, like, remember you sharing that with me. I was in shock. And if I can recall right, when we were at Costa Rica for Summit, can't recall if you had been diagnosed or you were diagnosed shortly after that diagnosis. And I'm curious for you to share with the audience that's listening, like, imagine like having this diagnosis, number one, getting diagnosed with cancer, but what would you say was the biggest thing that you were afraid of when you got that diagnosis? And what would you say has been the biggest thing that you have learned about yourself during this journey? And you are still on this journey, obviously. So, yeah, can you please go into detail a little bit about that experience?
Two questions, right? What was I most afraid of when I learned about the tumor? I think what I was most afraid of was not being able to offer my work in the world. Where I'm like, I haven't fully lived out my dharma.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, when people hear cancer, they may hear death,
Yeah.
because we've heard of people dying from cancer, and
Yeah.
cancer can absolutely kill you.
Yeah.
And so death is the ultimate fear, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
And knowing that I had so much more life to live,
Mm-hmm.
and lots of questions of like, why is this happening to me? I'm
Mm-hmm.
so young. I'm so healthy. I've made so many changes in my life. Why now?
Mm-hmm.
And my husband and I, Jonah, we've never held each other tighter
Mm.
than when we got that information. We were just holding each other so tightly, and we were both really scared. And I was afraid of chemotherapy.
Yeah.
Will I need chemotherapy? Which thank God I didn't.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I think just a big fear of losing my life.
Yeah. And share with the audience, I think it's important for people to, number one, really understand first and foremost, one, if you feel comfortable sharing with the audience your age, and two, how did you even discover this at such a young age? Because you have a really interesting story of how you came in an awareness of this cancer in general.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm 36 now, and I was 35 when I learned about the tumor. It was July 2nd of 2021. Yeah. Maybe was I 34? Oh gosh, age and time, it's so weird. So around that age, 34, let's say. And what's the other part of the question?
Is how did you actually find out that you had the cancer? Because again, like what you said earlier, you're like, I'm young, I've changed my lifestyle. Like there was obviously something that was raised in awareness of you to even go to get, I'm assuming, tested. But how did you even find this out?
So my mom had just had a double mastectomy herself. My mom had breast cancer. My grandmother also had breast cancer years and years ago. So my mother she was diagnosed in 2020, and she had just she went through chemotherapy, and then she had a bilateral mastectomy. And I was with her after her surgery. And it was a really challenging week and a half to be with her and to help. She was, she's an amazing patient, obviously, and receives it very well. But to witness somebody in pain and to be staying in their home is challenging as the caretaker. So I was really very tired afterward. And I said, I just need to go back to Eugene and get in my self care. So I was getting colon hydrotherapy actually. And my colon hydrotherapist is a close, dear sister of mine. And I just noticed that my armpits were sore.
Mm.
And I had brought that up to her, and she's like, well, that's something that you should really pay attention to. And we talked about lymphatic drainage massage. We talked about breast thermography.
Mm.
And so I scheduled all of those things. And then I also went and saw my primary care physician, and she sent me in for an ultrasound. And then the breast thermography is really fascinating. She sent me in for an ultrasound as well. So I went and got 2 separate ultrasounds, and both doctors picked up on a spot. Not only that, I had spent a lot of alone time with myself, really giving myself a detailed breast exam, like really feeling into my breasts. And I have been so connected to my body for a very long time. And I know the mapping of my body. And I call myself a sacred embodiment guide. So for us to be so connected with our body and know the mapping of our body so that we're able to tell when something is off. And so I could feel something, a little something in there. And I'm like, okay, maybe it's my imagination. Maybe I just have fibrous tissue. And I have, had firm breasts. So they were just a little bit sore. And I ended up getting the ultrasound. They picked up on a spot, and then that spot got biopsied. And I was actually heading to Las Vegas for 4th of July. And the doctor's like, well, do you want to be informed whether it's cancerous or not?
Yeah.
And I said, yes, just call me. And we had checked into our hotel in Las Vegas, getting ready for a fun weekend with friends. And then we got the call and learned that it was indeed cancerous. And I was just absolutely stunned. And so what's really interesting is I've, been developing a team per se for quite some time. I have an acupuncturist that I've been working with for a long time, a naturopath. In 2019, I worked closely with a functional medicine coach, really diving deeper into my health. And we have a functional medicine doctor who's on the East Coast. So I already had, and I had a therapist too that I was working with regularly. And I already had this amazing team of people. And the first person that called me, because one thing that's important that people know is you need to make sure that your scans get sent to all your practitioners and get forwarded. And if you don't ask in advance, they just go into the archives and will only go to your primary care physician. I didn't hear from my primary care physician for a week after I learned about this tumor. Wow. I had to call her. So I get the phone call from radiology, and then literally like 10 minutes later, my naturopath calls me on the phone because I made sure that my scan was forwarded to her.
Yeah.
And right off the bat, she was there, showed up for me in unconditional loving support. And like, I'm going to be here to help you get through it. And at that point, I'm like, oh, Dr. Kelly, I'm going to do whatever I can naturally to cure this. And she's like, I'll support you in whatever decisions you make. She's like, but we need Western medicine, and you're going to need to, in my opinion, to follow some oncology recommendations and follow this path. And I'm going to be here to support you on the other end to help to keep you balanced throughout it all. Wow. And so she's just a godsend. But had I not had her, I kind of would have been really lost in the sauce.
Yeah.
And immediately she was like, get ready, put your seatbelt on, because you're about to get like washed up and around in our medical system.
Oh man.
Because the medical system, it is so chaotic and people don't communicate with each other. No. It took a week for my primary to look at the facts. And I actually called her. Wow. And I said, hey, did you guys see my diagnosis? Have you seen this?
Oh,
And
man.
they're like, oh, we haven't quite gotten to the faxes yet. I'm like, well, I need to get an MRI and I need a referral to the first step is they got me a referral to a surgical oncologist and an MRI as well. And I'm like, well, I need to get these appointments done. And are you going to be on my team? Like, can I count on you to be on my team? Because you're not showing me that you're a good team player.
Yeah.
And I had to have this really serious conversation with them and speak up. And they said, yes, we will be here to support you. And it was her primary nurse that I was speaking with. And she's like, you can just ask for me directly.
Beautiful.
And so now I'm able to just call the clinic. And if I need a referral to anything, they will listen. But I had to use my voice and really advocate for myself. Yeah.
I really love that you just said that, like, mic fucking drop. Like, yeah, look at that full circle right there, Brittany, in regards to like, fuck, in high school, you lost your voice. And now you are having to use your voice in a stern, grounded, direct manner to take radical responsibility for your health. And I love that you mentioned that because I wholeheartedly believe, and I want you to share a little bit with the audience, is obviously you utilized integrative medicine, right? Like acupuncture and different ways of healing modalities through this process. And then also you went through conventional Western medicine and did some procedures. And I really would love for you to share to the audience of like what that provided you, obviously with integrating the two. Because when we do integrate the two, there could be some beautiful magic. But I love the fact that you said, I had to fucking use my voice. And that is so, I think that's a big part of, really honestly, of why I named my podcast like Awakening the Feminine, because there's so many women that are out there that are suppressed emotionally and physically, literally afraid to utilize something that's so profound, and it will literally change the trajectory of their life. And for you, I think that's a big part of what you did for yourself, changed a very large part of your outcome with your experience. Would you agree?
Absolutely. Yeah. And, I've been really blessed because my mom was a nurse. And from day one, she gave birth to me 2 days before she graduated nursing school.
Wow.
And so from day one, even in utero, I was in the medical field and in the medical system. And that's why I was wanting to be a doctor, because it's all that I knew.
Yeah.
And I learned that you really have to advocate and you need to speak up. And it's important to have family support.
Yeah.
And my mother, for her going through her breast cancer process, it was an amazing learning experience for me and my sisters, because we were working as a team and we were making phone calls. We know who her doctors are. And I learned how to advocate for her when she wasn't able to advocate for herself.
Yeah.
And that in turn taught me how to advocate for myself and speak up.
Beautiful. Let me ask you this, obviously, and I want you to just share a little bit. You obviously had made the decision to do I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, is it a bilateral
Mastectomy.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously that was your personal decision. And I know through conversation how emotional that was for you, in regards to, especially, for many women, breast is associated as part of being a feminine woman through being it a part of ourselves. And for you, I know it was a really emotional, process for you wanting children and wanting to nurse children. And so can you share a little bit with the audience about when you made that executive decision? I'm curious to know what was some of those integrated approaches that really supported that process for you. And I know we've recently spoke about it. You're on this journey of, limiting intoxicants for a prolonged period of time. And there's a reason why you made that decision. So yeah, share a little bit about those integrated processes that you did to support that, because that was a big one.
Well, that was the biggest decision of my life. And I studied in the developmental sociobiology lab. So I was studying the effects of breastfeeding on the benefits for the child, and also the benefits for the mother.
Mm-hmm.
When you breastfeed, it releases oxytocin, and it can help prevent and actually heal depression and anxiety. And so the act of breastfeeding isn't just beneficial for the baby, it's beneficial for the mom too. And so I've always envisioned myself breastfeeding. I actually have had vivid dreams breastfeeding a child. And so it was really, really the hardest decision to make. But there was 3 reasons why. One was my age. And being so young, the chances of recurrence are a little bit higher than if you were diagnosed at an early or at an older age. The second was my family history. Grandmother, mom, and myself all had breast cancer. And my oncologist, just with that information, suggested a bilateral mastectomy. But my mother has learned that she has a gene, CHEK2. It's not the BRCA gene, but it's similar as far as it increases chances for different types of cancers.
Wow.
And so my mom came with me to my first oncology appointment. Bless her heart. And thank God that she is still alive to be able to show up there with me. So she came to my first oncology appointment and brought her information and her history. And the oncologist is like, well, if you have this gene, then yes, 100%, you definitely should have the bilateral mastectomy. I'm like, well, I'm going to wait to see if I've got this gene, and I'm going to put my foot down, and I'm not going to make the decision until I actually really know for sure.
Wow.
It took like 2 months to get those results. And
wow,
pandemic times, really slowly. And during that time, I got second opinions, third opinions, fourth opinions. Joan and I, we had the privilege of being able to both take time off, research this decision, to really take our time. And throughout this whole journey, I've thought of so many women who do not have that option, who might not have a partner who's as involved and caring and wanting to be a part of the process, somebody to take notes during the appointments, because your brain cannot function when you're in those appointments. It's too much to digest.
Yeah.
And then also to have the luxury of being able to take the time.
Yeah.
I really seized that time when I was waiting for those test results. And every doctor I spoke with, that was the suggestion, was the bilateral mastectomy.
Wow.
Especially if I had the gene.
Mm-hmm.
So I learned that I did, in fact, have the gene. And so I scheduled with a plastic surgeon and surgical oncologist in California.
Okay.
And went with the surgeons that I resonated with the most from my different conversations.
Mm-hmm.
And brings up a lot. It's so stressful. It's so stressful. So when we think about the other modalities that I was doing through that time, it was all nervous system support. Because if you think about cancer, there was just a cell that went a little haywire. One cell that got confused. And so we need to support our cellular system.
Yeah.
We need to support our mitochondrial health, and we need to support the nervous system, because stress is the number one cause of illness.
Yeah.
And it is so counterintuitive how our medical system
1000%
with it. It's so much stress.
Yeah.
And so whenever I talk to another woman who's going through this journey, I'm like, nervous system support.
Yeah.
I couldn't guide myself through a single meditation. I'm a meditation teacher. I couldn't guide myself. So I was listening to my own, or not my own personal recorded meditations. I was listening to recorded meditations, yoga nidras, and doing everything I possibly could to rest my precious body through the insane stress that it was experiencing.
Yeah.
And acupuncture, powerful, powerful modality. And it's proven to help so many things. But one of the greatest benefits that I experienced during acupuncture is deep rest.
Yeah.
Really being able to drop into deep, deep rest amongst all sorts of other things. But I had to make a lot of diet changes. I chose to make a lot of diet changes, limiting carbohydrates, eliminating sugar, really managing blood sugar, because cancer loves to feed on sugar. Alcohol is one of those. Alcohol is all sugar. And so I've been really evaluating my relationship with alcohol since before the breast cancer. When I saw you in Costa Rica, Joan and I were on a ketogenic diet.
I remember.
We didn't eat any fruit in Costa Rica, and I had 0 alcohol and felt amazing. And so I've really not been consuming alcohol, and it feels so good. Not only because I know that it's not good for my health, but because so much clarity is coming through. And I've always been a highly sensitive individual, and my psychic abilities are really online when I'm not intoxicating myself. And that includes cannabis too, because cannabis, it can be very helpful for pain management during cancer. And I did use cannabis recovering from my surgery, but I haven't been now because I'm not managing any pain in my body. So now that just really clear.
I love that you brought that up, about how not only are you going through this physical transformation of your body, your body's changing on the outside physically from the procedure, but I couldn't agree with you even more, the emotional impact what that has and the importance of supporting the nervous system with that. And a lot of people don't really have the knowledge or the awareness or the ability to really make those lifestyle modifications, whether it's take time off work, have those external resources. I think there are some fundamental choices that anybody can do that may not cost you anything to make these changes like that you're talking about, Brittany, especially one, eliminating alcohol. And I feel like you and I, girlfriend, can have a whole other podcast on that subject because, me too. Hi. And right, like I think there's an awareness of I used alcohol as a numbing because my nervous system was under so much stress and fear and anxiety. It had become a coping strategy to deal with my stress. And that was most of my life. And so I want to commend you for, spending this prolonged period of time of eliminating intoxicants. And I also want to just share with the audience is like, I know also part of that for you was you are in the process, or you just got done doing a beautiful egg retrieval to potentially have a beautiful baby with Jonah. And, through that process, I remember that was so important for you of like really staying in those integrated processes in your wellness routine so that when you did go through that process, you would be able to retrieve as many eggs as possible.
Yeah, I actually I'm currently undergoing a treatment plan. It's a medication called tamoxifen, and it's a hormone blocking medication. And so we had retrieved eggs prior to me starting the tamoxifen. So right after my surgery, my bilateral mastectomy. And then we didn't quite get the amount of embryos that we were really wanting and hoping for. We genetically tested them for the gene that my mother and I have. And so we're really, really desiring to not pass that gene to our children if possible.
Yeah.
So we were wanting to do it again. And I went through a clearing process from that medication that I worked with my naturopath on it and went off of the tamoxifen for 2 months leading up to this second egg retrieval. And I had done a full year treatment with this tamoxifen, and it absolutely affects egg health. And so I knew that I needed to go above and beyond for my own personal health to help clear the tamoxifen and get my body up to its like optimal health. And that was, really I eliminated alcohol, like all intoxicants, on December 2nd. And then we retrieved in March. So it was a full like 3.5 months that I went without anything. And really great practice too. I went to Hawaii with friends for my birthday and didn't have a single Mai Tai. And I felt like a freaking champion.
Yeah, girl.
I mean, alcohol is just inundated in our society.
Oh, yeah.
And it's just this regular thing that people do to get together when we're adults. And so it felt really good. And I felt so much more connected to the land. So, and in addition, was doing regular acupuncture. Acupuncture is so powerful for fertility.
Mm-hmm.
And I also sat with a medicine called Combo.
Yeah.
About the benefits of Combo for fertility. So through all of that, we did get some really good results from the egg retrieval. And right now they're being genetically tested. So we're not quite sure how many we got that don't have the gene, but I think that we did better this time. Yes. Yeah. So we have been talking about implanting in like a year or so for getting pregnant. And I'll be doing another year of this tamoxifen medication, taking a break to get pregnant, and then also going back on it once the baby is here. And so I'm continuing on the path of like keeping my body clean and clear. Mm-hmm. And I feel like I just really want to give my body the greatest chance it possibly can to be able to carry. And I learned through my naturopath that they recommend eliminating intoxicants up to 4 months preconception. 4 months. And this is a whole rabbit hole that I've been working on, but I've been really working on a lot of past trauma around alcohol. Mm-hmm. And I've been working with a coach named Obear. Mm-hmm. He's been working with me on a soul level. He's so wonderful. Yeah. But we've been really evaluating my relationship with alcohol because I got intoxicated, like heavily intoxicated for the first time at 12 years old. Yeah, you too.
1000%.
He's raising her hand for the listeners.
Yep, me too.
Yeah. And, I had drank alcohol even before that, but I remember getting really, 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 really drunk at 12.
Wow.
And my mother was an alcoholic, and my parents divorced when I was 9, and it was really chaotic from that moment forward. I mean, it was chaotic before that, but it really picked up at the divorce point. And then my mom was really drinking super heavily. Mm-hmm. I've realized, like, I went back to my child self at 12 years old, and I realized that I was numbing because of her alcoholism. Wow. And I'm like, let me just meet you where you're at. Mm-hmm. And I haven't really spoke much about this, but my mom is very open and honest about her recovery. She's been sober for 15 years. Badass. So
yeah, Mom.
My mother getting sober saved our lives. It saved our family, and it saved her life. That's for sure. Wow. Because things were getting real squirrely back then. And thank God she went to rehab and has been in AA ever since. But, I realized that I was numbing from the chaos and also the alcoholism. Yeah. And I just didn't know that. I didn't know that until like these last couple of months. Wow. And so let me like tie this up with a little bow here.
Come on, give it to us.
we're calling life into the world. We're, working on conceiving.
Mm-hmm.
And what a better gift and message to send to our future child.
Mm-hmm.
Safe home. And that safe home is my body.
Mm-hmm.
And my husband and I, Joan and I, have been talking a lot, it's really on me right now.
Mm-hmm.
A little bit like some pressure to make sure that I'm taking like ultimate care of myself,
Yeah.
because the women carry the child.
Yeah.
And Jonah was actually, he's been really focusing on his health next level, especially leading into his contribution, because we made embryos. So, he had nice, wonderful sperm that was really happy and clear and not intoxicated.
Yep.
So, like, what a better message to send to your future child, that they get to come into a safe space. And that wasn't the case for me coming into the world. And then also I'm like, how often is it that women all of a sudden get pregnant? They drink regularly, they may consume cannabis or whatever else, and then all of a sudden they have to get sober.
Yeah.
And what happens to their nervous system?
Oh, sheesh.
And so I'm working through all of these like uncomfortable feelings of being in public, not drinking, developing new relationships with my close friends that I've always imbibed in alcohol with. And I'm like, okay, well, I'm just doing something different for me.
Yeah.
You can do what feels good for you. And we can still be friends. We can still have a good time. And I'm going to probably twerk harder than you.
Get it, girl. Cut a rug. I love you. So visually see this right now. Yeah.
So I know it's long-winded, but that's just kind of what I've been coming around to, and so grateful to the mentors, to my sisters like you who are, on the path and I'm able to connect with. So just been feeling really good about it all.
Let me ask you this. Who has been some of those mentors for you? For anyone that's listening, obviously, a lot of the times we can have a conversation and, thousands of people hear it and they may say, oh yeah, me too, I'm struggling. And they don't know where to begin or where to look. Who would you say, obviously, has been some of those mentors over the last couple of years for you?
Mm.
I know one of them, but I'll let you say.
Anahata.
Yeah, we love our Mama Anna, Mama Hata.
Mama Hata.
Mama Hata.
We did our breathwork facilitator training with Anahata, but Anahata has helped me come back into my body and honoring my body and caring for my body, and also has been huge in support for mine and Jonah's relationship and us calling in this soul that wants to come into our lives. And she offered us a beautiful womb blessing when we were in Sedona recently after Jonah's training. And my naturopathic doctors, there's plural, my acupuncturist, my amazing colon hydrotherapist, Tara. She's been such a wonderful friend. I'm forgetting all of my friends who have showed up,
Yeah.
the meals that have been prepared for us.
Mm.
It's been kind of a long journey. I had not only the one surgery, I had a follow-up surgery 6 months later, a revision to my surgery. And then we've done 2 egg retrievals and we've needed support. So there's been a lot of people that have like steadily continued to show up for us.
Mm-hmm.
I have a sweet friend named Felicia who delivered me bone broth and canned goods that she made herself.
Oh.
And, it's just those beautiful awakened people that are in my life that I can keep leaning on. And you and I have had such wonderful communications. Our sister Freedom
Yeah.
Cream. I'm drinking her cacao right now, and I've actually not been drinking coffee either. And so the cacao has been such a great addition to my repertoire of self-care and love.
Yeah.
Oh gosh. Yeah. I mean, the list goes on. I really appreciate my doctors.
Yeah.
the medical doctors, I know that there's a lot to be said as far as the challenges, but they are such great individuals. My plastic surgeon is killer, surgical oncologist, amazing. And my oncologist, Dr. Cho, who's here in Eugene, he's just such a sweetie.
Mm.
So, yeah, and Bear, who I've been coaching with since December, who's been a big supporter in my clarity and, clearing myself to prepare my vessel.
Mm-hmm.
And they're welcoming a new baby into their life.
I saw. That's awesome.
Yeah, and it's been really cool too. I've had a lot of moms and dads and babies in my life. I've gotten to do a couple of baby blessing way ceremonies, and that feels amazing. I love being able to welcome new life and be like a ceremonial piece to the puzzle.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's beautiful because I think one of the parts that, if I may say, like through your own awakening of your own feminine and coming back to self, you're taking some of those most painful moments that you have experienced and you're now turning it into your purpose. You are literally taking those painful experiences and you're transmuting that and making it a part of your purpose, and look what is being amplified in the world around you. And so it's a beautiful, again, expression of your authentic self. And I want to ask you, if you could go back and give your 18-year-old self one piece of advice, what would that advice be to your 18-year-old self?
Slow down.
Literally slow down.
Slow down. Slow down. And gosh, I mean, she's transmuted a lot. She has transmuted a lot, speaking of myself in the third person here. And I would just tell her that it's going to be okay. Like, keep the vision. Because I've always known that my life was going to be better and more fruitful than my upbringing.
Mm-hmm.
And that I'm the creator of the process. Like, I'm going to make this happen.
Mm-hmm.
But it doesn't have to be out of lack or out of stress and taxing the nervous system.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And, I've always remained really active, but I wasn't always kind to myself. I even still will get stuck in those old patterns of being really hard on myself. And I think that there's like certain personality traits of people that are extra hard on themselves.
Yeah.
And I'm one of them. And so that's one thing that I've been really softening into is it's okay.
Mm-hmm.
We don't have to check everything off the list today.
Mm-hmm.
We can be more gentle on ourselves. And that's like the slowing down process, slowing down the nervous system, slowing down the thoughts. Doesn't all have to be so hard.
Would that be the same? Would that also be to the same message that you would give women out there that are slowly starting to awaken their own feminine? Like, would you say the same thing to them of slowing down?
Yeah. Slowing down in all of the things, including our sensuality, including our self-touch, including our connection with others.
Mm-hmm.
Slow it down, feel the body, connect with our hearts. Yeah. And my word for the year is softening. Like, where can we soften?
Yeah.
And I'm still working on that as a wife, softening,
Mm-hmm.
feminine in my marriage. Like, okay, maybe I've been pretty masculine my whole life, more in like survival mode.
Yep.
And so where can I soften in my beautiful relationship? Where can I allow him to step into his masculine, into his form of running the ship, and where can I soften into that too?
And I love that you mentioned that, because I think that's important. I want to really just let the listeners know, when I decided to call the podcast Awakening the Feminine, it was with the number one intention also of letting women know that being in the feminine is safe, and the mature feminine, not in the wounded maiden or toxic femininity of where it's like really shaming the patriarchy and judging the patriarchy. Like, I want to be very crystal clear on that. This podcast will zero have tolerance for that, because I agree with Brittany. There is such a beautiful practice and a coming back to self, especially if you've been disembodied from your own feminine due to whatever events that you have occurred from. I do believe that a lot of women are walking around with some wounding in that aspect. But part of awakening the feminine is realizing that being in that soft place that you're talking about, Brittany, that is where your superpower is. You can be soft and discern and have healthy boundaries all in the same aspect. And it doesn't mean that we have to bleed, punish, shame, or criticize the masculine in any aspect. So thank you for saying that.
And, speaking our needs.
Yeah, girl.
The
Come on.
masculine man really wants to know
Yeah.
what you need.
Yes.
They don't read our minds.
No.
I
Sure don't.
want them to so badly, but they can't read our minds.
No.
And I just want to backpedal really quick to, you were asking about the women or the people who have supported me along this journey.
Yeah.
And I had asked for references from my doctors of women who have had, a similar diagnosis to me. I asked my plastic surgeon if she had anybody she could recommend and refer me to that have had the same surgery that I was about to have. And those are the women who have been the biggest supporters. I've gotten to have amazing phone calls with women that have gone through breast cancer. And then the same thing with the IVF process. One of my closest friends has gone through the process, and she and we were in communication daily on this journey. And so it's the women that have, and the people that have been through it.
Mm-hmm.
Because it can feel really lonely. You're like, oh my gosh, I'm the only one of my friends that have been diagnosed with breast cancer.
Mm-hmm.
But there are supporters and there are people out there. You have to just ask, talk to the doctors, and say, there are women that say, I want to help other women who are going through this. And that's me too. So if there's any listeners here that are seeking support or allyship or just somebody to listen, I'm here. And it's been really, one of the doctors told me in the very beginning, it's Dr. Conover, he said, sooner than later, you're going to need to realize that this is the greatest blessing in your life. Diagnosed with breast cancer. It's the greatest blessing.
Wow.
And that was hard to hear. I'm like, really? Like what?
Yeah.
But it really has been. It's brought me closer in my marriage. It's brought me closer to my friends. It's brought me the most close to my own body, my own needs, my own clarity, my own inner wisdom.
Yeah.
And this was like a full stop moment. These are full stops, especially like going through the IVF process. It's to do the egg retrieval, it's about a month long. And being in one place is vital during it.
Yeah.
You need to slow the heck down for that process because you're exhausted during it.
Yeah.
It's emotional too. It's like emotional, physical, mental hijacking.
Yeah. It's like you got the Big Mac, and we're not talking McDonald's Big Mac. Like, you just got the Big Mac all at once. It's like, oh yeah, the bun is the physical, the lettuce is the emotional, like all of it stacked. Here it is. It's your plate. How you gonna handle it?
I got the fries and the shake too.
Yeah, girl. Shake it up, sister. All of it at once.
Yeah. So when we think about our supporters, you might be so surprised the beautiful people that come into your life through tragedy.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And those people are there. They're waiting to love you. And there is so much love out there. And I've received so much universal love, so much. And, I've never prayed harder. Had so many prayers for me, and prayer works. I'm like, hey, y'all, can you do that again for me for this next egg retrieval? Thank you so much. Like, because
I'll receive.
it worked.
Yes, please.
It worked last time,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. So as we come to a wrap, I want to just ask you, for any of the listeners that are listening, as I mentioned earlier, there may be someone out there that may be going through the breast cancer process and, doesn't have a large network of friends, or may even have shame around it. I think that's important to have an awareness of that when we get these diagnoses. The shame and the fear that happens to us can cause us to shut down and isolate and go inward. So for any of those listeners that are out there, where could they find you, Brittany? Where could they find you?
So my Instagram is Britt Boersma with 1 T, and then BZen Wellness, the letter B, the word Zen Wellness. And they can also contact me through our website, bzenwellness.com.
Beautiful. Well, I will make sure to have those in the show notes so that you guys can get directly to Brittany if you have any questions. And I also just want to highlight, one of the most powerful things about Brittany is she is her own medicine. Not only is she, a 500-hour registered yoga instructor, as she mentioned, she is an embodiment guide now, a PEMF practitioner, energy worker, breath work from, Anahata. There's just ceremonialist working with helping women and babies now, retreat leader, public speaker. Like you just nail it on all the levels, and you are such the medicine that many women in the world, I pray, get to experience you hand on. And like, I'm going to cry because I'm so proud of you for the woman that you have become and how you embody it in our personal conversations. Oh man, you are literally the feminine from every aspect. And I see you, I love you, and I honor you. And thank you for being my first special guest on Awakening the Feminine podcast. Thank you.
I love you so much. Thank you, thank you, thank you. It's a high honor, sister.
Thank you.
Bye. Congratulations.
Thank you.